Hi, this video is going to show you how you can set up your labels. So we've created a really cool label designer, custom label designer. I think you're going to love it because you can get exactly what you want. So you're going to go to settings and then to design, and then you want to hit labels. So this is where all the magic happens. You can see we have no templates available right now, so we're going to create one. And if you don't want labels, which I think is a little bit odd, but yeah, everybody's different. You can go to settings and then you can turn labels off, and then no labels will be generated. So you have to create a label for each herb type that you have. So we're just going to do one, and then you can, they all work the same for the most part. Raw may be a little bit different. We may go into that one a little bit. So to add a new template, click on Add New. There's a couple different templates. So there's labels with herbs and then labels with no herbs. Okay? Most people are going to want herbs. So if you want to offer the option of not printing herbs on the label, you have to create a specific label for no herbs because we don't want just a big blank white space in the middle. So we're going to take this one as an example. So we're going to select this template, and don't worry about the size because you can change that. So we'll call this default granule template. Okay, and we can describe that. You know, regular size granule template bottle label. Okay. Now you can use Avery label templates to print your labels. So if that's the case, you can choose the Avery label template you want to use. Now, there are other templates on the market which are not Avery label templates. You can use those as well. You just have to contact us and we can create the exact dimensions of that label template in the system. Okay? And this is not mandatory. You don't have to. You can also choose a container size. So we haven't gone through container sizes, but you can define all your containers in the system, and you can have different labels for different container sizes. So if you generate a formula and it's using a really large bottle, you may want a larger label. The system will know which bottle or which container you're using, and then it will generate the proper size label. You can generate your label as PDF, JPEG, or PNG. So if we switch to JPEG, that's what it looks in JPEG, and PNG will look the same, or PDF. Great. So remember, this is all test data. It's going to use data from your custom formulas and put it in here. So the practitioner information will be the practitioner that's building the formula. And all of this other data, all the formula ingredients and stuff will be from the actual custom formula. Okay. So we have a couple tabs here. So we have the layout, the patient info, the practitioner info, the formula info, some content blocks, and then the footer info. So you can resize this label in inches, millimeters, centimeters, or pixels. Okay. So for instance, if you had a 3-inch label by a 6.5-inch label, then we can change the size here and it's going to generate a label of that size. You can also change the orientation of the label depending on how you want it to print. And you can change the background color. So you can choose a different color. So let's make it crazy. And you can also add an image for the background. So if you want to have like a watermark or some type of background that prints out, then you can do that as well. And you can set the margins. So the margins is the space around the borders. So you have a top and a bottom, a left and a right margin. So let's make them all 10 so you can see. Right, and then we can save and preview it because we're going to make changes along the way. So we just want to save it and preview, make sure it looks the way we want. Let's try that again. There we go. Oh, that looks ugly. But most likely you wouldn't pick that color. And if you have, you can switch this graphic here, and you would obviously make the graphic background the same color as the background color that you're choosing. But you can see how we can switch the background colors. Most likely you do something very subtle. There we go, there's it. We'll switch it to white for this so we can see what's going on. There we go. So we can go to patient info, and you can see here we have the patient name. So do we want to show the patient name on the label? If we don't, we can save it, and the patient name is going to be turned off and hidden. There, now the patient name is gone, but most likely you want to have the patient name, and you can change the font size. So maybe the patient name you want bigger. Maybe you want the patient name in a different color. And you can see here this text, patient info. And let's preview it so you can actually see it, because we've turned it back on. There it is. So now that patient's name is in a different color, and we can switch this patient info. So maybe we just want to label it patient. And we can switch the font as well. So if you erase that and search, maybe you want the font in a different font. So essentially we are linking to Google Fonts. So let's go there quickly. So Google Fonts has about 1,800 fonts, and we've added a couple more of the more common fonts. So you can pick any font here. So if we wanted Ubuntu, we could go Ubuntu, and that's the font we're going to get. So let's see what it looks like. There it is. So now that it's very small, but that is in Ubuntu right now. Okay, and you can specify the max characters in there. So we don't want it to kind of go all the way to the end. So you can specify how many characters you want to fit in there so it doesn't overlap on anything. And then you have the same thing with the practitioner info. So with the practitioner info, we have the title, practitioner contact. So here, practitioner contact. We can turn that off. We can turn everything on and off. So the practitioner name. You may not want the practitioner name on your label, so you can turn that off. Practitioner email, practitioner phone number, and their website. And you can change the font size and the font color, and you can underline and bold for all of them as well. And again, the max characters for the name. And if you find that there's not enough room, you can make the font size smaller as well. So we could go, let's see what it looks like if we go too large. Now, if you make things too large, it's going to give you a warning, like it's going onto 2 pages. Like you can't have things going onto 2 pages because you only have one label. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. We made the fonts really large for that. There, so now it's bigger. So you can see like this email address, there's some hidden columns here. It won't fit there, so because we made it too large. So you can play around with the font and make sure that everything is fitting. It's not going to work perfectly every time. Some people just have really long names, and it may go into 2 lines. Like there's just nothing we can do about that. There are other templates that give you more space for this information. So you may want to pick one of those templates and play around with it. And then we have the formula info. So this is probably the more complicated section, but you have the formula name, self-explanatory. Here's the formula name. I find that I would like the formula name a little bit larger. So let's say we put that to 16. Let's see what that looks like. There, now it's much bigger. I like it much better like that. It goes on to 2 lines, which is okay. Okay. And we have the dosage instructions. So maybe you don't want dosage instructions on your label. So you can turn it off if you want. You can switch the font. You have all these options here. And then the title text for dosage instructions, which is this text right here. So you may want to call it just instructions or dosage, anything like that. You could switch it up. You could switch the font sizes. Maybe you want it to be a little bit larger or smaller. And then you have the herb name. So mark as required. So if you want to force practitioners to have the herb names on there, put it on. If you want to give the practitioners an option to turn the herb names off, you can turn it off. Now, what it's going to do is it wants to have a template that exists with no herbs on it. So remember what I said before, you need to have a template existing with no herbs first. So if you turn this off, it's going to give you an option to choose which template to use if no herbs are selected. Okay, so we won't do that right now. And for the herb names, you can choose the font size, the color, and then the herb table width. So you can see here, this table here has a specific width. So if I wanted to make it smaller, let's say 30%, so make it a quarter smaller, you're going to see that the size of the table is not going to be as wide. So there, it's a little bit smaller. Let's go down to 20%. So we can see it even more. There, now it's very small. Okay, and it gives more room to everything else. So you can see that now the email address is displaying properly because we've given more room here. Now, this small table would fit one herb name, but you have an option of printing more than one herb name. You can even see it's going to 2 lines here. So what you can do is if you want to print only one herb name, this works. But if you want to print 2 herb names, then you need to give this a little bit more space. Because if we put, say, Latin and Pinyin, and let's do the default Latin and Pinyin, and save it, you can see it's all bunched up. I mean, it still kind of works, but you probably want to make this a little bit larger. And then, I mean, sometimes the Latin, it could be very, very long. There, and that works a little bit better. Okay, this one's, you can see this one's really long. It's going on to 2 lines, which it's okay. But it's up to you. So down here, you can choose what you're allowing or what you want to be printed on the label. So you have your default. So all labels will print with this. And then you can allow practitioners to choose what they want. So you can add to the list of what you want, them to be able to do. Okay, and then I can specify Latin only. And let's save and preview. There we go. So we have the Latin as the default. And then inside the practitioner account, which is in another video, you can allow practitioners to choose which ones they want. If there's more than one in this list only. Okay? And then do you want to print the quantity of the herb on the label? So yes or no. So if you don't, you turn it to off, and then you're going to see the quantity disappears. So now there's no more quantity for each of the herbs. Okay, and let's turn that back on. You can make it require that the quantity is on there. So again, the practitioner would have a choice in their account whether to turn the quantity on or off. And of course you can change the fonts and everything like that. And then there's other herbs. So sometimes in this list you could have 25 herbs in a formula, and you can't fit all the herbs here. So there'll be something that says other herbs and just the amount. So if you want that on, you just click on other herbs. And then do you want to show the total quantity of the herb? So we have here total. You can turn that on and off. Okay. And then the main heading, formula ingredients. Here, formula ingredients. You may want to change that text or even turn it off. So we have formula ingredients. If we turn it off and we save and we preview, Now that heading is gone. Okay, and we can turn also this Latin and quantity row off as well. Herb name, title text, I believe it's that one. There it is. So now that's off. And it actually gives more room for herbs if you want that. But I think it looks a little bit more professional if you label it. And then we have the premix formulas. So premix formulas, you can actually list the herbs in the premix. So when you're setting up your premixes, you can list all the herbs in the premix as an option, or you can just list the premix heading. So if you don't want to list all the herbs in the premix, you can turn that to off. And it's not showing here, but there's an update coming where you can actually turn the heading off as well. So the heading is just the formula name. And you can choose to print the create date and style the create date and the fulfillment date and style the fulfillment date. Okay, let's turn these back on. Great, so everything's back on. And then we have content blocks. So you can see we have this here. So you can change this information and write what you want. My own information. Let's see what that looks like. There it is. Right? And it's maxing at 100 characters. So if we want it to show more, because I think it's getting cut off right now. There, now it's showing it more information. Okay? And you can obviously change that around. You can change the border thickness. So if you want a really thick border and the border color, see what that looks like. There, now we have a little border around it. And we have some heading text, so other information. Okay, let's see what that looks like. So if we wanted to have a title on top of that box, there, now it says other, and we can obviously make that bigger. Let's make that, 16. Oh, that's the box text. Right here. Okay. There, now that's much bigger. Okay. And then we have our images. So we can turn the images on or off. We can change the height of the image and the width of the image. And then if we want space around the image, we can have a margin, more like padding around the image. So for instance, right now if it's too close to the formula name, our bottom margin, we can add some pixels here. So now there's a little bit more space. You can obviously make that space bigger. So now there's more space. Okay? And you want to be mindful about how much space, because someone could write long dosage instructions. You don't want things to get cut off. Okay? And you could change your picture. Obviously, you're going to want to put your own logo here, so you can select your logo and upload it. So you just go select, and it's going to go onto you can find it on your computer. And then the last one is the footer. So this text down here. So you can turn the footer off. So this information will just disappear. And you can switch the font. And you can show the site name, the phone number, the website, or you could turn those off. Okay? And you can write your own footer content. And let's see what that looks like. There, my dispensary. So it's a little off-centered, so we can actually increase the left margin, let's say to 300. Remember, you only have to set this up once, so take your time, go through it. Once it's set up, you may tweak it every now and then. That's more centered, and you can change the font size and make it bigger. That's the main rundown of labels. So let's save and exit. So you can stop now, but if you do raw herb, let's check out a raw herb one. Let's add a new one, and then we'll select this template. This is a different template. Just want to show one thing on here. Let's do that again. There we go. So let's go to formula information. So on this one, you can order the herbs. I think it was on the other one too, as you know, quantity highest to lowest, lowest to highest, alphabetical or as entered. There is something here. Oh yeah, so you can show the quantity as the total quantity in the entire order, or how much is in a bag or per day. So that's the difference with the quantity on the raw herbs. Because you may have a label for every single bag that you dispense, and you may not want the total quantity on there. You may want to show exactly what's in that bag, or if there's a 1 day per bag, then how many herbs are in the bag per day. That's the main difference there with the raw herbs. And if you have any questions about the templates and how to manipulate them, or if you're having any trouble, please definitely send us off an email or give us a call. The main thing to know is we have some default sizes. Now, if you were to make this layout really small, so say you were to cut it in half, say 2 inches by like 3 inches, and let's save it. It should go on, maybe go on to 2 pages. So let's see what happens. Because the font size may be too large, because you're going from a large label to a small label. And it will give you like an error message. And what you need to do, so here we go, it's going on to 2 pages, because we've taken a really large label and we've made it really small. So everything is really big. The graphic is big, and the font sizes are too large. So you'll see it's going on to 2 pages. So what you actually need to do, and you need to play around, you have to go and make all the font sizes smaller. And once you do that, you may get that error a couple times, but once you make the herb name smaller and this smaller, and maybe your logo smaller, and like everything's smaller, everything's going to fit onto this, essentially a tiny label. And the opposite is true. If you take our label and you have like a really large label, everything's going to be too small. So you have to make everything just bigger, and you only have to do it once, and then it's set up for you, and then you're good to go. And then you can go back and you'll see if we make it larger again, then everything's going to fit again, and it's not going to go on to 2 pages. There. So now there, I made everything really, really large. So you may want to increase the size of everything and change the width of this table and make your logo larger. So the opposite is true. All right, thank you so much.